Bloody Daughters, a horror novel, total target, 25,000 words. The beginning, the town of Blackwood was quiet. Almost too quiet for a place that had carried stories of screams, disappearances, and shadows for over a century. Most of the townspeople avoided one road entirely, the road that led to Hollowcrest Mansion. It was an old, rotting structure perched on a hill, its windows broken like eyes that had cried themselves dry. The gates hung loose, creaking when the wind pushed through. No one in their right mind ever went there. No one except for 4 university girls who wanted answers. Sarah, Nadia, Amira, and Layla were known on campus as inseparable. They were brave, curious, and reckless in ways that often led them into trouble. But this time, their trouble was much darker than they could ever imagine. The Derritt began on a rainy Friday night. Inside their dorm room, the storm outside rattled the windows, thunder echoing across the sky. Layla leaned forward, her dark eyes wide with excitement. Have you heard the legend of Hollowcrest Mansion? They say a family lived there 100 years ago, but all of them disappeared. The daughters, 3 of them, were found dead inside the house, and no one knows what happened to the rest. Sarah rolled her eyes, but smiled. That sounds like every ghost story we've ever heard. Amira shivered, wrapping her blanket tighter. No, I've heard it too. My grandmother used to tell me that if you stand in front of the mansion at midnight, you can still hear the daughters singing. Nadia, the boldest of them all, laughed. Singing? That's creepy as hell. Let's go see for ourselves. The room went silent. The rain pounded harder against the glass. You're not serious, Amira whispered. Oh, I am, Nadia grinned. We're always talking about being fearless. Let's prove it. Tonight, we go. Sarah hesitated. At midnight. Exactly. At midnight, Layla replied, her voice lower now. Because that's when the Bloody Daughters wake. The arrival by 11:45 p.m. The girls had made their way through the dark forest path that led to Hollowcrest Mansion. Their flashlights trembled in their hands as the rain dripped from the trees above. The mansion loomed over them, taller than they expected, its roof jagged against the stormy sky. The iron gates screeched as Nadia pushed them open. The girls stepped inside. Instantly, the air changed. It was colder, heavier. Their breaths misted in front of them, though it wasn't winter. This place is cursed, Amira whispered, clinging to Sarah's arm, which is exactly why we're here. Nadia replied, forcing a confident smile. Inside, the grand hall was choked with dust and cobwebs. Broken portraits hung on the walls, paintings of stern-faced men. elegant women, and 3 young girls with eyes too lifelike for comfort. The floor creaked beneath their feet. Water dripped somewhere far away. And then, faintly, they heard it, singing, 3 voices, soft and sorrowful. Floating through the empty halls, Sarah froze. Please tell me that's the wind. But they all knew it wasn't. The first encounter, the girls followed the sound, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The singing grew louder, clearer. It wasn't joyful, it was mournful, like a lullaby twisted by grief. They stopped at the door of what looked like an old nursery. The door was slightly open, and the voices came from within. Nadia pushed it open. The room was filled with broken dolls, tiny beds, and peeling wallpaper covered in faded flowers. But what made them gasp was the mirror on the far wall. In it, 3 pale girls stood side by side, their dresses torn and stained with dark patches that looked like blood. Their eyes were hollow, yet their mouths moved, singing the same haunting tune. The girls in the real room screamed, stumbling backward, but the singing didn't stop. In fact, it grew louder. The 3 ghostly daughters turned their heads in unison and stared directly at them. Who enters our house? The voices whispered together. The flashlights flickered. The air turned icy. Amira grabbed Sarah's hand. We shouldn't be here. We need to leave. But the door slammed shut on its own, trapping them inside. The daughters in the mirror smiled, and the singing stopped. The nursery door rattled as if unseen hands pressed against it from the other side. The girls huddled together, their flashlights flickering in shaky hands. The mirror across the room pulsed faintly, the 3 daughters inside staring without blinking. Sarah's throat was dry. We didn't mean to disturb you. The daughters tilted their heads, their movements sharp and unnatural. One of them, the tallest, stepped closer inside the mirror. Her lips moved, but the voice echoed all around the room. You entered. You are ours. Amira screamed and tried the door again, but it would not open. Nadia pushed past her, slamming her shoulder against the wood. Yet it held like stone in the mirror. The smallest daughter suddenly pressed her hands flat against the glass. The surface rippled like water. Layla gasped as the pale hands pushed through. The glass didn't shatter, melted, allowing the ghostly child to crawl halfway into the room. Her dress was torn, her hair hanging in clumps, her eyes black voids. She opened her mouth and let out a soundless scream. The lights in the nursery died. Total darkness. Sarah's flashlight buzzed weakly and then flared back to life. The pale child was gone from the mirror. She's in here, Layla whispered, trembling. The sound of tiny footsteps pattered around them. Dolls fell from the shelves, one by one. The girls spun in circles, unable to see where the footsteps would strike. From Nadia raised her flashlight high. "Show yourself." The beam caught something in the corner. The little daughter crouched there, her head tilted at an impossible angle. Slowly, she crawled on all fours toward them, her bones cracking with every movement. Sarah dragged Amira backward. "Stay away from her." But the girl moved fast. She lunged at Nadia, cold hands clutching her wrist. Nadia screamed as the flashlight fell, rolling across the floor. The little daughter's black eyes burned like holes. "Join us," the girl hissed. Nadia thrashed, pulling free. The ghost vanished like smoke, but the icy chill lingered where she had touched her. Her skin had turned blue where the fingers had been. Suddenly, the mirror lit again. All three daughters stood together, smiling wide, their teeth too sharp, too long. "You cannot leave," they whispered in unison. "You must sing with us." The nursery door swung open on its own. For a moment, freedom seemed possible. But as the girls bolted toward the hallway, the portraits along the walls changed. The painted eyes of the long-dead family bled black tears. The faces in the frames shifted, becoming the faces of Sarah, Nadia, Amira, and Layla, themselves painted, lifeless, already part of the house. Layla froze in terror. "It already knows us." The storm outside raged louder, lightning striking close. The mansion groaned like a living beast, every board creaking with hunger. The girls ran down the hall, their footsteps echoing in sync with another set of footsteps, ones they didn't own. The daughters were following. The hallway stretched longer than it should have, the shadows bending and twisting, as if the mansion itself was alive. Every door they passed slammed shut on its own, trapping them in the endless corridor. Amira's breath came in short bursts. "We're not moving anywhere this hall." "It's the same, again and again." Sarah grabbed her hand. "Keep running. Don't stop." Behind them, the faint singing returned. It was slower now, a lullaby that dripped with venom. The sound echoed through the walls, surrounding them. Layla stumbled, nearly falling, but Nadia pulled her up. "We don't stop. We don't stop for anything." Then, suddenly, the corridor ended in a massive set of double doors. They were carved with strange symbols, dark lines twisting into shapes of eyes, mouths, and crying children. The girls pushed together, and the doors groaned open. Inside was a ballroom, enormous and ruined. But the strangest sight was the figures moving across the floor. Dozens of ghostly women in tattered gowns danced in silence, their faces hidden by veils of black lace. The music was not real, but their movements matched the rhythm of the daughters singing. The girls froze in horror. None of the dancers seemed to notice this song stopped. All at once, the women's heads snapped toward them. Under the veils, their faces were skeletal, fleshless, with jaws that hung too wide. One of them hissed, and then the entire ballroom surged forward. "Run!" Sarah screamed. They bolted across the cracked floor, dodging the swarming figures. Ghostly hands reached for them, skeletal fingers scraping their arms. The air was freezing, their skin burning with cold wherever they were touched. Nadia swung her flashlight like a weapon, smashing through one figure, which dissolved into smoke. But more came, rising from the floor, falling from the ceiling. Crawling out of the shadows, Amira spotted a staircase at the far end. There, upstairs. The girls raced toward it, stumbling onto the rotten steps. The dancers swarmed after them, the song resuming now, louder, harsher. A chorus of death. Halfway up the stairs, the chandelier above groaned and crashed down, missing them by inches. The shockwave threw them forward, and they tumbled onto the landing, gasping, bleeding, terrified. The four clung to each other. The song stopped again, and from the top of the next hallway, the three bloody daughters appeared, no longer inside the mirror. They were real now. Their feet hovered above the ground, their hair floating as if underwater, their smiles sharper than knives. The tallest one raised her hand and pointed straight at the girls. "You belong, Toth House." The corridor at the top of the stairs seemed narrower than the rest of the mansion, its walls pressing in as if the house wanted to swallow them whole. The three bloody daughters hovered at the far end, their hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Sarah's knees trembled, but she forced herself to stand tall. "Stay together. Don't let them separate us." The tallest daughter glided closer, her voice echoing from everywhere at once. "You already belong. The house has your faces, your names. Soon, it will have your souls." Layla's voice cracked. "We're not yours." The middle daughter tilted her head, then raised a hand. The corridor's wallpaper began to peel, curling away in strips. Behind it were not wooden boards, but human faces, dozens of them, stretched across the wall. Their mouths open in silent screams. Amira covered her eyes, tears spilling. "God, help us." The youngest daughter giggled, her laughter shrill. She whispered, "One of you must stay. One always stays." Nadia stepped forward, fists clenched, rage fighting her terror. "We're not staying. We're getting out." She charged forward, swinging her flashlight like a club. The beam cut through the dark and struck the youngest daughter, but instead of breaking, the ghost dissolved into black smoke, then reappeared. Behind her, cold fingers brushed Nadia's neck. She screamed and spun, but the daughter vanished again. Sarah grabbed her arm, dragging her back. "Don't let them touch you. Every time they touch us, they take something." The floor beneath them groaned, then split. Wooden boards snapped open like jaws, revealing a drop into endless black. The girls leaped back, huddling against the wall of faces. Suddenly, one of the faces in the wall moved. Its eyes blinked. It was alive. A woman's voice whispered weakly, "Help us." "Break the glass." "Break the glass." Layla froze. "Did you hear that?" she said. "Break the glass." Sarah's eyes darted around. At the end of the hall stood another mirror, tall and cracked, its surface rippling faintly. The daughters hissed in unison, "Do not touch it." Amira's fear turned to desperate courage. She grabbed the fallen chandelier chain she had picked up earlier and hurled it at the mirror. The glass shattered into 1,000 shards. The house roared in pain. The corridor shook violently, the faces in the walls wailing in agony. The bloody daughters screamed, their forms flickering, twisting as if torn apart. Sarah shouted, "Now! Run!" The girls bolted past the writhing spirits, down another staircase that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Behind them, the daughters shrieked, their voices blending with the house itself. The staircase spiraled downward, deeper into the mansion's heart, and waiting below was a single heavy door. Its wood stained dark red, as though it had been painted with blood. Carved across it were 3 words, "Room of Daughters." The 4 girls stood frozen before the blood-stained door. The letters carved into it seemed to pulse, as if the wood itself breathed. A faint humming came from inside, soft at first, then rising into the same lullaby they had heard upstairs. Amira's lips trembled. "I don't want to go in there." "We have no choice," Sarah whispered. "Whatever this place is, it's where the truth is hiding." Nadia gritted her teeth, pushing the others gently behind her. "Then we end it here." She pressed her palm to the door. It was warm, too warm like skin. With a low groan, it opened inward. The room of daughters was not what they expected. It was vast, candlelit, the walls lined with children's toys, broken dolls, cracked tea sets, little dresses hung like trophies. In the center stood 3 cribs, old and rotting, each filled with bones wrapped in scraps of lace. Layla gasped, covering her mouth. "These are the daughters. As if answering her, the air shimmered. The three bloody daughters appeared, circling the cribs. Their hollow eyes glowed brighter than ever. Their voices, now sharp and accusing. They killed us, the tallest hissed. They buried us. The middle one sobbed. They forgot us. The youngest giggled. The girls stepped closer, horrified. Sarah's eyes locked on the bones. These are their real bodies. They never left this room. Amira's hands shook. But if their bodies are here, what are they now? The daughters turned as one, smiling wide. We are what the house made us. We are its voice. We are its blood. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. Candles flared higher, the room trembling as if it floated on water. The cribs rattled. The bones within shifted and rose, assembling into skeletal shapes dressed in rotting lace. The daughters no longer hovered as spirits, they stood as Hafrated corpses, their bodies breaking through the veil. Nadia grabbed a splintered wooden toy from the floor like a weapon. Stay back. The tallest daughter stepped forward, jaw snapping open, far wider than human. Her scream shook the walls. You came to see our story. Now you will finish it. The cribs collapsed, the toys ignited in sudden flame, and the girls realized the truth. The room of daughters was not a sanctuary. It was a trap. The flames spread fast, keen across the walls. But the fire gave no heat. Instead, it froze the air, making their breath fog in the choking darkness. Layla clutched Sarah's arm. We're trapped, Sarah. The door is gone. Amira spun around, pounding her fists against the wall where the door had been. It was no longer wood. It had turned into a wall of writhing flesh, covered in hands that clawed outward but couldn't break free. Each hand belonged to someone the mansion had already taken. The daughters stepped closer. Stains on the floor. Their voices layered together, filling the room like 1,000 whispers. One of you will stay. One of you will replace us. Sarah swallowed her terror and forced herself to think. Her eyes fell on the cracked mirror shard, still clutched. In her hand, the piece Amira had broken upstairs. The mirror hurt them before. She whispered. Nadia's eyes lit with sudden defiance. Then, maybe it can kill them. Before the daughters could react, Nadia lunged, driving the jagged shard into the chest of the youngest. Corpse daughter, the spirit, let out a piercing shriek as her body convulsed. Shadows poured from her wound like liquid smoke. She stumbled backward, falling into one of the burning cribs, which swallowed her in black fire. The other two daughters screamed in rage, their hollow eyes flaring brighter. The entire room shook violently, toys flying through the air like weapons. Sarah yelled, "It worked. We have to destroy the rest of them." The middle daughter moved with impossible speed, her skeletal hands seizing Amira by the hair. Amira screamed, her feet dragging across the floor as the daughter tried to pull her into the wall of writhing hands. Amira cried, running to grab her friend's arms. "Don't let go." The tallest daughter extended her arms unnaturally long, claws stretching like spears toward Sarah's chest. Sarah barely rolled aside, clutching the shard tighter. Her hand bled from its edge, but she didn't care. With a burst of courage, she shouted, "This ends here," and charged straight at the tallest daughter. The room roared, the corpses shrieking in fury. As the girls fought for their lives inside the burning room of daughters, the tallest daughter's claws sliced through the air, missing Sarah by inches. The echo of her screech rattled Sarah's skull, but she didn't stop. With every ounce of strength left in her, she drove the blood-soaked mirror shard into the daughter's chest. The corpse shuddered violently, black veins spreading across its lace dress. Her jaw split wider and wider, releasing a howl that sounded like 100 children crying at once. Then, like shattered glass, the spirit burst apart, scattering into a storm of ash to down. Nadia yelled, dragging Amira back from the wall of clawing hands. Just one left. But the middle daughter, the one still clutching Amira's hair, did not scream like the others. Instead, she leaned close, her rotting face inches from Amira's ear, and whispered in a child's broken voice, "Get out of here, kid. Get out of here, kid." The words echoed around the room, deeper, darker, until it was not just one voice, but dozens, then hundreds. The flesh wall began chanting with her, every trapped hand and mouth repeating the phrase. Amira's eyes widened in horror. She struggled, kicking wildly, but the daughter's grip was iron. Sarah, still panting, stared at the last daughter. Something was different about her. She wasn't attacking, she was warning. "Wait," Sarah whispered, stepping closer. "Not trying to kill us, she's telling us to leave." The middle daughter's hollow eyes met hers, glowing softer now, flickering between rage and sorrow. Her skeletal jaw trembled as she hissed again, "Go, before the house wakes." The flames dimmed suddenly, as though sucked back into the walls. The floor trembled like a heartbeat beneath their feet. Nadia clenched her fists, confused and furious. "What do you mean, before the house wakes? This whole place is alive already." But before any answer came, the wall behind them split open, revealing a narrow corridor. Cold wind blasted through, carrying the faint smell of dirt and fresh graves. The daughter released Amira, shoving her toward the opening. Run. The girls exchanged one terrified glance, then bolted into the dark passageway as the room of daughters collapsed behind them. The corridor was impossibly long, its walls pulsing as if veins ran beneath the wood. Their footsteps echoed, but the sound was wrong to many footsteps, as though unseen figures were running with them. Amira clutched her side, gasping, "It's chasing us. I can feel it." Behind them, the flesh wall shrieked, stretching into the passage, hands clawing their way closer. "Don't look back," Sarah shouted. Her voice was steady, but her eyes flicked nervously over her shoulder. The corridor twisted suddenly, leading into a spiral staircase that descended into total blackness. A faint, sickly green glow seeped from below, calling them downward. Nadia hesitated. "Down? Are you insane?" "That's where it wants us to go." But the wall of hands was already tearing into the stairwell behind them, fingers reaching, nails scraping. They had no choice. One by one, the girls rushed downward, the spiral tightening until their heads spun. The green glow grew brighter, revealing the end of the staircase, a massive underground chamber. It looked like a crypt, filled with rows of broken coffins. Each coffin was child-sized, and every lid had deep claw marks, as though something inside had tried to escape. Amira gagged, covering her mouth. "Oh God! Oh God!" In the center of the chamber stood an altar made of bones, and on it, a book bound in dried human skin. The pages fluttered as though turned by invisible hands. Sarah stepped forward, drawn to it against her will. The book opened, revealing words written in blood. The house lived through the blood of the daughters. To end 8. The blood must be returned. Layla shivered. What does that even mean? Chamber, her body broken and twisted, but her eyes strangely human. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Kill me. Free us before the mansion wakes fully." The chamber rumbled violently. The coffins began to shake, their lids rattling as if something inside wanted out. Sarah gripped the shard tighter, her hands trembling. "If we kill her, we end it. But if we don't..." The sound of splintering wood filled the crypt as the first coffin lid cracked open. The coffin lid burst apart with a deafening crack. A small skeletal hand shot out, its nails long and jagged, dragging itself into the open. The girls screamed as the first child corpse crawled out, tits, hollow sockets, glowing faint green. Its jaw unhinged, far wider than any human mouth. Dozens more coffins rattled violently, ready to release what was inside. The entire crypt shook, as though the mansion's heart was beating beneath them. The middle daughter staggered forward, clutching her chest. Her rotting lips trembled as she gasped, "Do it, before they all wake." Sarah's hand shook around. The shard of glass. She didn't want to kill her. For the first time, this daughter seemed more victim than monster. The first corpse child screamed, its cry like shattered glass, and leaped toward Nadia. Nadia shoved it away, her hands bleeding. From its claws, "Do it, Sarah." Nadia shouted. Now, Sarah's eyes brimmed with tears. With a broken sob, she raised the shard high and drove it deep into the daughter's heart. The scream that followed shook the entire crypt. The daughter's body convulsed, her glowing eyes locked onto Sarah's. For a moment, her face softened, almost peaceful, before her form dissolved into ashdot. At once, the coffins stopped rattling. The corpse children froze mid-movement, their mouths gaping in silence. Then, one by one, they crumbled into dust, collapsing into their coffins as if they had never risen. The crypt fell silent. The altar's book slammed shut. The green glow fading, but the silence was not comforting, was heavy, suffocating. Amira whispered, "Is it over?" Then the floor beneath the altar split open, a jagged crack widening. From the darkness below, a sound rose deep, monstrous and ancient. Not the daughters, not the children. Something else. The mansion's true heart was waking. The floor split wider. Stone grinding against stone, until the altar collapsed into the chasm. The girls stumbled back, clutching one another as a foul wind roared up from below. The air stank of rot and burning flesh. From the depths came a sound, no longer a scream, but a low, guttural heartbeat. Each thud shook the chamber. The walls wept black ichor, and the green glow returned, brighter than ever, seeping from the crack like poison light. Sarah fell to her knees, the shard still slick with blood. Nadia grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "No. Listen," she said. "The blood must be returned." Killing her wasn't the end. It was just the key. The book on the altar, though toppled into the abyss, reappeared suddenly at their feet, pages flapping violently as if screaming for attention. It opened to a single page. Words scrawled in dripping red appeared before their eyes. "The heart is buried below. To free the house, to free the children, the bloodline must be broken." Amira whispered, horrified. "The bloodline, it means us. It wants our blood." The heartbeat quickened. From the crack, massive skeletal hands emerged, each finger like a crooked tree branch, clawing their way out. A colossal figure began to rise, its skull-like face stitched with hundreds of screaming mouths. The girls screamed and ran toward the stairwell. But the staircase twisted, folding in on itself, vanishing into the walls. They were trapped. The creature's voice echoed through the crypt, not from its mouths, but directly into their minds. Daughters of flesh, you opened the gates. Now you will be my vessels. The walls of the crypt pulsed like living flesh, veins bulging, dripping. The coffins that had crumbled reformed into shapes, not of children, but of mirrors. Each mirror reflected the girls not as they were, but as pale corpses, eyes hollow, blood leaking from their mouths. Nadia screamed and smashed one of the mirrors with a rock, but instead of shattering, it bled. Thick, dark blood poured from the cracked glass, spreading across the floor in rivers. The crypt filled with a stench of death. Layla clutched her head, falling to her knees, whispering, "It's inside me. It's crawling inside my mind." She began to laugh, sharp, unnatural laugh, her voice layered with another, deeper tone. Amira tried to pull her up, but Layla's eyes turned white and her lips moved in unison with the creature's voice. Only one may sacrifice to end the curse. One must die willingly, or all shall be taken. The heartbeat thundered. The mirrors bled faster. The mansion's true heart was awake. The crypt shook as though the entire mansion were breathing, inhaling and exhaling through the walls. The green glow spread until every stone surface pulsed with veins of sickly light. Sarah clutched her chest, gasping, It wants us to choose. One of us has to die willingly." Amira's face was pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. No, there has to be another way. We can't just..." But Layla's body convulsed, her laughter breaking into screams. Her hands clawed at her own skin, as if something inside her was trying to crawl out. The deeper voice spoke through her cracked lips. "The house will feed. If blood is not given, all will be swallowed." Nadia held her trembling sister tight, trying to shake her free of the voice. "Fight it, Lala. Don't let it in." But Lala's eyes rolled back, and her mouth stretched impossibly wide. A black smoke poured out, swirling into the shape of a face, the same stitched mouth skull that had risen from the crack. The monstrous figure loomed higher, its ribcage scraping the ceiling. Each of its many mouths whispered the same word over and over: "Sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice." The mirrors around the chamber began to ripple like water. In each reflection, the girls saw themselves: dying Sarah, hanging by a noose; Amira, drowned in black water; Nadia's throat cut; Layla, burned alive. Amira screamed and turned away, but the reflections wouldn't vanish. The visions clung to their minds like chains. The book on the floor burst into flames without burning. Its fiery letters rose into the air, spelling the words, "The purest blood ends the curse. The youngest must bleed." The girls froze. Their eyes turned slowly to Amira, the youngest. Her lips trembled. "No, please, don't look at me like that." Nadia shook her head violently, stepping in front of her. "No one's touching her. I don't care what this house says. There has to be another way." But the creature laughed, its many mouths roaring like thunder. The ground split further, revealing a pit of writhing, skeletal children below. Their tiny hands reaching upward, screaming in silence. Sarah whispered, her voice breaking, "If we don't, they'll drag us down there with them." The choice was before them. One of them had to bleed, or all of them would be swallowed by the blood mansion. The silence pressed down on them, heavy and suffocating. As the stitched-mouth monster loomed higher, its countless whispers echoing through the crypt. "Choose the youngest. Bleed. Bleed." Amira's knees buckled. She collapsed onto the cold stone floor, clutching her ears. But the voices weren't in her ears anymore. They were inside her head. Nadia wrapped her arms around her, glaring up at the creature. "No, you're lying. You feed on fear, not truth." The black smoke swirled, forming jagged shapes, blades, hooks, and ropes dangling above them, as if the house itself was preparing its own punishment. The skeletal children in the pit wailed louder, climbing higher, their bony fingers scraping the edges of the crack. Sarah trembled, staring at her sisters. Her voice shook. "If it's true, if Amira dies, the curse ends. Maybe it's the only way." Nadia's head snapped toward her. "Don't you dare say that. She's a child." But then Layla staggered forward, her eyes still clouded, her voice half her own and half the house's. "It is written in every bloodline, the youngest must pay, or all will fall." Her body jerked as though invisible strings were pulling her limbs. She reached for the shard of glass still in Sarah's hand. Sarah stumbled back, horrified. "No, Layla, stop." Suddenly, the mirrors flared again. This time, they didn't show the sisters' deaths, they showed the past. The reflections revealed a family long ago, a mother and her 4 daughters, living in the mansion when it was new. The mother, desperate and trembling, slit the throat of her youngest daughter on the altar, spilling her blood into the earth. The stitched-mouth spirit rose from her corpse, binding itself to the house, feeding forever. The girls gasped. Amira sobbed. "It's not a curse. It's a cycle. Every family that lives here They kill the youngest to save the rest. Stitched-mouth monster leaned close, its breath icy and foul. Bleed or repeat. The pit widened, bones rattling as skeletal arms clawed higher, dragging themselves out. The sisters were running out of time. Sarah lifted the shard, her hands shaking violently. Her eyes darted between Nadia, Layla, and Amira. Someone had to decide, or the blood mansion would decide for them. The air grew colder, so cold that every breath scraped their lungs like ice. The stitched-mouth monster leaned lower, its countless faces opening wider, waiting, hungering. Nadia's arms tightened protectively around Amira. No one is dying. Not her. Not any of us. Her voice cracked, but her defiance burned hot against the suffocating cold. The ground rumbled. Skeletal hands broke free from the pit, clutching at their ankles. The girls screamed, kicking and stomping, but the dead children were strong. Their hollow eye sockets burned with faint red light, their silent mouths opening and closing like fish gasping for air. Sarah raised the glass shard higher, her eyes wild. If it's the only way, I'll do it. I'll end it now. No. Nadia shoved her, the sisters clasped hands. Their fear was still there, but something else rose stronger rage. They were not victims. The stitched mouth lunged, its shadow falling over them. But the light from Amira spread, burning against its skin. The creature shrieked, stumbling back. The skeletons screeched, their bony frames smoking as the glow touched them. But the spirit in Layla's body fought harder. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide, and in a voice not her own, she bellowed, "Blood, blood, blood." Her hand seized the glass shard, and with horrifying strength, she raised it toward Amira. Nadia tackled her, the two sisters crashing to the floor. The shard sliced Nadia's arm, blood spilling, but she didn't let go. She pinned Layla down, tears streaking her face. "You're stronger than this. Fight it, Layla. You're my sister. Come back to me." Layla's body convulsed, her eyes flickering between black void and their familiar brown. For a moment, her lips trembled. Dia. The stitched-mouth monster roared, furious. It began pulling itself fully from the pit, its body stretching, bones cracking, towering until its head scraped the crypt ceiling. Sarah screamed, "It's coming through. If it gets out, if it escapes, everyone will die." Amira's glow brightened, so strong it hurt to look at her. Her tiny hands reached toward Nadia and Layla, trembling. "Hold on." The sisters clasped hands. Their fear was still there, but something else rose stronger rage. They were not victims. The stitched mouth lunged, its shadow falling over them. But the light from Amira spread, burning against its skin. The creature shrieked, stumbling back. The skeletons screeched, their bony frames smoking as the glow touched them. But the spirit in Layla's body fought harder. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide, and in a voice not her own, she bellowed, "Blood, blood, blood." Her hand seized the glass shard, and with horrifying strength, she raised it toward Amira. Nadia tackled her. The two sisters crashing to the floor. The shard sliced Nadia's arm, blood spilling, but she didn't let go. She pinned Layla down, tears streaking her face. "You're stronger than this. Fight it, Layla. You're my sister. Come back to me." Layla's body convulsed, her eyes flickering between black void and their familiar brown. For a moment, her lips trembled. Dia. The stitched mouth monster roared, furious. It began pulling itself fully from the pit, its body stretching, bones cracking, towering until its head scraped the crypt ceiling. Sarah screamed, "It's coming through. If it gets out, if it escapes, everyone will die." Amira's glow brightened, so strong it hurt to look at her. Her tiny hands reached toward Nadia and Layla, trembling. "Hold on. Please, hold on." The three sisters locked hands, their circle incomplete. They turned to Sarah, who stood frozen, fear choking her throat. The pit widened again. A scream rising from below, like 1,000 children crying at once. The stitched mouth monster reached for Amira, its claws burning in the glow. Sarah dropped to her knees, grabbing her sister's hands. The circle was complete. A shockwave burst outward. The mirrors exploded into dust. The skeletons screeched and fell back into the pit, and the stitched mouth monster howled in fury as its body cracked like glass. But the house fought back. The walls bled, rivers of crimson pouring down, flooding the crypt. The sisters were lifted by the rising blood, their circle still locked. Amira's glow spread wider, piercing through the mansion itself. And for the first time, the stitched mouth monster screamed in fear. Its many mouths snapped shut, its stitched lips tearing apart, unraveling, until its form shattered into dust. The blood receded. The pit sealed shut. The crypt fell silent. The girls collapsed on the cold stone, gasping, trembling, but alive. Layla coughed, her eyes clearing, her voice her own again. "Is it over?" Sarah shook her head slowly. "No, we broke one spirit, but this house, it holds more." Above them, the ceiling cracked. Faint whispers drifted through. Not gone, not finished, waiting. The blood mansion was not done with them yet. The silence that followed was unbearable. The four sisters lay on the crypt floor, their breathing ragged, the air thick with the metallic stench of blood. Every flicker of torchlight seemed to crawl across the walls like shadows, alive. Amira's glow had faded, leaving her pale and weak. She clung to Nadia's torn sleeve, whispering, "Don't let them take me again. Please." Nadia brushed her sweaty hair back. "I swear, Amira, over my dead body." But deep down, she knew the battle wasn't over. The stitched mouth had shattered, yes, but the whispers still slithered through the stones, echoing from places unseen. Sarah stood first, her shoes dripping red from the blood flood that had receded. Her voice trembled but carried a sharp edge. "We can't stay down here. This is only one layer of the house. There's more above, more waiting." The stone staircase leading upward loomed before them, slick with black slime. The steps twisted unnaturally, as if the mansion itself had rearranged. No longer a crypt, no longer familiar, it was alive, changing to trap them. "Do you hear it?" Layla rasped. Her voice cracked like someone who had screamed for hours. She pressed her ear to the wall. A faint scratching came from within, thousands of little claws scurrying just beneath the surface. The sisters froze. The walls were breathing, and then came the sound, tap, tap. From the staircase above, something walked slowly, deliberately. Its footsteps were heavy, dragging, like wet bones scraping against the stone. A voice followed, calm yet mocking. "For sisters, one curse. You broke the first thread. But the weave is deeper, so much deeper." The torches flickered out, plunging them into pitch dark. Only Amira's faint glow lit their terrified faces. The figure descended. At first, it seemed human tall, cloaked in rotting funeral cloth. Its hands long and skeletal. But where its face should have been was only a mirror, cracked down the middle, reflecting their horrified expressions back at them. Sarah gasped. Another one. Another spirit. The mirror-faced man tilted his head. His voice reverberated, not in the air, but in their skulls. "I am the second guardian. The blood you spilled has called me. And now, one of you will break. One of you will become mine." The crypt groaned. The floor split again, not into a pit this time, but into endless corridors stretching in every direction, all twisting, all impossible. The sisters clung to each other, but the ground beneath their feet shifted. The mansion was separating them, pulling them apart, tearing their circle apart. "No, don't let go." Nadia screamed, grasping at Sarah's arm. But the mirror-faced man only laughed, his broken reflection splintering into four. His voice split. into echoes, each whispering directly to one sister. Alone, you must face me alone. The floor gave way. The sisters were swallowed into separate halls, their screams vanishing into the maze, and the mansion fed on their fear. Nadia hit the stone floor hard. Her breath punched from her lungs. She scrambled up, clutching her bleeding arm, her ears ringing. The hallway stretched infinitely, lit by cold blue flames. Each wall bore portraits, grotesque versions of her family, painted with eyes that moved and followed her. Amira, Sarah, Layla. Her shouts echoed endlessly, no reply. From the shadows, the mirror-faced man appeared, but here he wore her reflection in the glass. Nadia saw herself beaten, bloodied, whispering, "You can't save them. You'll watch them die. And then you'll beg me to take you." Nadia backed against the wall, but the portraits behind her whispered in unison, "Failure, failure, failure." Her heartbeat thundered. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, though her voice shook. The reflection smirked. "You should be." Glass face cracked wider, and Nadia's reflection stepped out of the mirror itself, another version of her, carrying a noose made of braided hair. Her own double lunged at her. Meanwhile, Sarah landed in a different corridor, hers lined with doors, hundreds of them. Each door had numbers carved deep into the wood, glowing faintly. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and onward. She touched one, and the handle turned itself. A door creaked open. Inside, she saw a childhood memory, herself at age 7, crying in a locked room, begging for help while no one came. Her knees weakened. This isn't real." But from behind her, a voice whispered, "Every memory is real, and every regret feeds me." She spun to see the mirror-faced man again, this time wearing her childhood face, smiling with broken teeth. The doors all slammed shut, then began opening at once, flooding the hall with screams, sobs, and shadows that reached for her. Layla, too, faced her own corridor. Hers was lined with mirrors, endless mirrors, each reflecting her body, twisted, deformed, consumed by black smoke. In some, she was already the stitched-mouth monster. In others, she was dead, eyes hollow, blood pouring from her ears. Her own reflection whispered, "You were chosen. You belong to the darkness. The curse wants you most." "No," she choked out, backing away. "It's not me anymore. I fought it." The reflection reached through the glass, fingers clawing her face. "You can't fight what you already are." And little Amira. She woke in a tiny nursery, walls painted with cheerful suns and stars, but all of them had bleeding eyes. Her old stuffed toys sat in a circle, their heads torn and stitched back, their mouths whispering, "Stay with us forever, Amira." In the corner stood the mirror-faced man, but here he wore no glass at all. Instead, his face was a hollow void, sucking in all light. "Amira," he crooned gently, "you are the heart. If I take you, they all fall, and you will never cry again." He opened his long skeletal hand. In his palm rested a glowing, beating heart.